The first warning came as a whisper across deep space, an echo of something vast and dying. At first, humanity dismissed it as background noise, just another cosmic murmur we weren't meant to understand. But then the signal grew louder, clearer, and hidden inside the distortion was a message no one expected. An alien fleet was calling for help, calling us. People froze when the translation finally came through. These weren't strangers, they weren't conquerors. They claimed to be our distant ancestors, beings who had left Earth long before humanity learned to write, long before cities rose, long before history even began. According to them, we were their legacy, and the only ones who could save them from a force that was tearing their civilization apart. The world didn't know how to react. Some refused to believe it. Others embraced the idea with an almost desperate hope, but the truth settled in when their massive ships appeared at the edge of our system, broken, flickering, half-destroyed silhouettes drifting toward our sun. They didn't come as rulers or gods, they came as survivors. And standing at the center of this discovery was a quiet research specialist from the Pacific, someone who had spent years listening to the stars, never expecting them to speak back. He was among the first to understand the structure of the alien signal and the meaning behind their plea. He realized that the fleet wasn't just damaged, it was hunted. Something was chasing them across the dark, something powerful enough to wipe out entire worlds, and now it was following their trail straight toward Earth. Still, the aliens insisted that humanity had the key to stop it. They said there was something hidden in our biology, something they had lost over thousands of years wandering the galaxy, something that could turn the tide of a war we never knew existed. Their voices were tired, filled with a kind of fear that made even seasoned soldiers stand still. Yet there was another emotion buried beneath that fear: pride. The pride of watching their lost descendants grow into a species capable of defending not just themselves, but those who came before. Governments argued, scientists debated, military leaders prepared for the worst. But deep down, everyone understood the same terrifying truth: if we didn't help them, Earth would be next. The darkness that destroyed their worlds wasn't slowing down. It wasn't negotiable, and it wasn't going to ignore us. As the alien fleet drifted closer, their ships glowing like wounded giants in the night sky, one final transmission came through, short, urgent, and filled with static. The translator struggled to keep up as the message cracked apart, but the last line came through perfectly clear: "We have brought the last piece you need, but once we land, everything will change." And then the signal went silent, leaving the whole world waiting, breath held tight, as the first of their damaged vessels descended toward Earth, ready to reveal what they had carried across the stars and what was coming after them. The world watched in uneasy silence as the first alien vessel broke through the clouds, its hull groaning under old wounds. Emergency crews rushed to the landing site, but no one stepped forward right away. The ship just sat there, towering over the field like a monument built by something ancient and tired. It gave everyone a chance to feel the weight of what was happening. These beings had traveled across the galaxy, chased by an enemy we knew nothing about, carrying a secret they claimed belonged to us. And now they were finally here, waiting for us to make the next move. When the hatch finally opened, a dim blue light spilled out, followed by a group of tall figures moving slowly, carefully. Their shapes were familiar enough to unsettle people. They weren't monsters. They weren't the strange creatures old movies had prepared us for. Instead, they looked like a distant branch of what humanity could have become: slender, long-lived, refined by centuries of life beyond gravity. Their eyes held an intelligence we recognized, but also a sadness that made everyone step back. The research specialist who helped decode their messages stood near the front of the welcoming team. He felt the pressure of the moment more than anyone. These beings claimed to share an origin with us, yet they carried technologies and knowledge far beyond anything Earth had achieved. He wondered what else they understood about humanity, things we had forgotten or never discovered. The lead alien stepped forward, speaking in a soft, resonant tone. The translator beside the specialist worked quickly to match their speech to something understandable. What came across wasn't a demand or a warning. It was almost a confession. Their society had grown powerful, reaching far across star systems. But somewhere along the way they lost something important, something they said humans still possessed. A trait, a biological key, a spark that their evolution had slowly erased. The specialist didn't know what that meant, but he felt its weight. If it was true, then Earth wasn't just a refuge. It was a last chance. As global teams worked to secure the landing site, more ships appeared in orbit, damaged silhouettes drifting like wounded birds. The sight alone pushed fear through the world. If these massive fleets barely survived whatever attacked them, what chance would Earth have? Scientists hurried to examine the alien technology. Soldiers stayed close, watching the skies for signs of whatever force had chased the fleet to our doorstep. And ordinary people whispered about the meaning behind the aliens' claim. If they really were tied to humanity, did that make us part of a forgotten story, or a missing piece in a fight much larger than our planet? Meanwhile, the aliens insisted they had carried something crucial across the stars. They said it was the reason they risked everything to reach Earth. But they refused to reveal it yet, saying it had to be shown, not explained. Something about human perception made us capable of understanding it in a way they no longer could. Every hour that passed added more tension, more questions, no answers, and above it all, orbit sensors kept detecting faint readings, disturbances at the edge of the system, patterns that hinted at something moving through the dark, following the same path the alien fleet had taken. Something getting closer. The disturbances at the edge of the system grew stronger over the next few days, and even without an official announcement, the public sensed that something was coming. People stayed glued to screens, waiting for updates from the observation networks. Every shaky report, every blurry sensor reading only added to the unease. If the aliens were telling the truth, then whatever wiped out their worlds was still hunting them, manned, heading straight for us. At the landing site, the research specialist spent long hours working with the alien delegation. He tried to understand the fragments of data they shared, records of destroyed colonies, collapsing star systems, and signals cut off mid-transmission. But most of the files were damaged beyond repair. What remained was enough to paint a terrifying picture, though never a complete one. The aliens called their enemy the Shadow Swarm, but the name was only a translation, a rough guess at a concept their language struggled to express. According to them, it wasn't a single species or a single fleet. It was something more unpredictable, something that consumed technology as easily as it consumed planets. While scientists tried to decode the alien archives, tension rose inside the global coalition formed to handle the crisis. Some leaders wanted to protect the aliens and learn from them. Others argued that Earth should focus on defending itself and prepare for evacuation if it came to that. A few even suspected the aliens were holding back information on purpose. They wondered how a civilization advanced enough to cross galaxies could lose so completely, yet still expect humanity to fill the gap. The aliens didn't argue. They simply said there were things they couldn't explain, yet things they needed humans to see for themselves first. Meanwhile, the specialist noticed something strange during the medical checks. The alien biology was similar to humanity's in ways that were impossible to ignore, yet also missing key traits. Their bodies processed energy differently. Their cells showed signs of long-term adaptation to artificial environments, as if generations had lived on ships and controlled habitats. But there was something else, something they lacked, something they repeatedly said was the key to facing the swarm. The specialist asked what exactly they meant, but the alien leader only replied, "Your kind kept what we lost. That is why we came." As governments argued, a subtle shift began among the alien refugees. Groups of them started gathering in quiet corners of the site, speaking in hushed tones. It wasn't fear. It was anticipation, almost like they were waiting for a specific moment. Some Earth officials grew suspicious, thinking the aliens were planning something without permission. Others believed they were simply grieving in a way humans couldn't understand. But one night, during a routine scan of the alien ships, engineers found something unexpected deep in the cargo hold of the lead vessel. A sealed structure, smooth, oval, pulsing faintly as if alive. The material didn't match any known alloy, and even the ship's own systems seemed hesitant to interface with it. The aliens refused to say what was inside. They only warned that opening it too soon could be dangerous. Yet keeping it sealed too long carried risks of its own. And while Earth debated what to do, the deep space sensors finally caught a clear reading, a massive object slipping into the system's outer edge, slowing down, aligning its course with Earth. The object drifting into the system's outer edge wasn't just larger, it was larger than any ship humanity or the alien fleet had ever recorded. The early scans showed shifting shapes across its surface, as if it was made from swarms of smaller pieces moving in patterns too complex to map. Every update from the observation stations tightened the fear across the world. If this was only the first fragment of the Shadow Swarm, then everything the aliens warned us about was real, and possibly worse than they feared. At the landing site, the sealed structure inside the alien cargo hold began to pulse faster, the faint glow deepening into a steady rhythm. Engineers kept their distance while military guards formed a perimeter around it. The aliens watched quietly, their expressions hard to read, as if they knew the moment they had been preparing for was getting close. Still, they refused to explain what the object truly was or why it reacted to the swarm's arrival. The research specialist felt the pressure from every direction, governments demanding answers, scientists asking for his help, and the aliens giving him the same calm, cryptic responses. He noticed the alien leader watching him closely, almost studying the way he reacted to each new discovery. It wasn't threatening, but it carried a strange sense of expectation, as though the aliens believed he would understand something no one else could. Around the world, defensive systems powered up, orbital platforms were repositioned, emergency shelters opened, but everyone knew these steps were more symbolic than effective. If a civilization spanning countless star systems couldn't stop the Shadow Swarm, Earth wouldn't last long. The only real hope rested on whatever secret the aliens carried on, whatever they believed humanity still possessed. The specialist spent hours analyzing scans of the sealed structure. The energy field surrounding it behaved like a living boundary, adjusting whenever someone approached. He noticed that his presence caused the biggest reaction. The glow intensified, and the readings shifted into new patterns. At first he thought it was coincidence, but the alien leader confirmed otherwise. They said the structure was responding to him because he carried the spark they sought. When he asked what that meant, they only repeated the same warning: it will reveal itself when the moment arrives. Meanwhile, the massive object at the system's edge began shedding smaller pieces, dark fragments drifting outward like seeds on a cosmic wind. Each fragment changed direction on its own, moving with a deliberate intelligence. Soon, dozens of them were heading inward, accelerating toward Earth. Panic spread fast. The global coalition demanded the aliens unveil their secret immediately, but they refused, insisting we had one final step to take first. Then the alien leader requested a private meeting with the specialist. Inside the dim control chamber of the lead vessel, they revealed fragments of their history, how their people drifted farther from their origins, altering their bodies, their minds, even their genetics in pursuit of efficiency and adaptation. Over centuries, they abandoned something essential, something tied to instinct, emotion, and the unpredictable strength that once defined their ancestors. You kept it, the leader said softly. That is why the swarm fears your kind. Before the specialist could respond, alarms blared across the landing site. The sealed structure's glow surged into a brilliant wave that shook the entire ship. The readings spiked so suddenly that systems overloaded. Guards shouted for evacuation. The aliens stood perfectly still. And above the planet, the first fragments of the shadow swarm broke through the upper atmosphere, darkening the sky as they descended toward Earth. The sky darkened as the shadow swarm fragments punched through the atmosphere, their shapes shifting like clouds made of metal and intent. Sirens wailed across the base while soldiers scrambled into formation, unsure whether to fire or fall back. The ground shook as the sealed structure inside the alien ship surged again, flooding the landing site with a deep, humming vibration that felt almost like a heartbeat. No one knew whether it was waking up, warning us. The specialist staggered as the vibration rolled through the chamber. Lights flickered, and a thin crack formed along the surface of the sealed structure. The alien leader stepped forward, not with fear, but with a strange acceptance. It was waiting for this moment, they said quietly, for the convergence, before the specialist could ask what that meant. A voice echoed through the ship's speakers, an automated system translating a message from orbit. One of Earth's observation platforms had just detected a second anomaly hidden behind the massive swarm structure at the system's edge, something even larger, something moving faster. And unlike the swarm, this one was giving off readings that matched the alien fleet, almost like another wave of survivors. But the aliens reacted with fear, not hope. They exchanged frantic words in their native language, their calm composure breaking for the first time. The specialist recognized panic in their eyes. The alien leader confirmed what their body language already said. The second anomaly was not friendly. It wasn't part of the swarm either. It was something from the aliens' own past, something they thought they'd escaped long ago. Another enemy, another threat, one they had not warned Earth about. The leader tried to justify it. Their people had fractured over centuries, splitting into different factions across the stars. Some groups believed the swarm could be controlled, not just fought. Others believed the Kether spark humanity still carried was too dangerous to allow in the hands of any species, including their own descendants. That second faction had hunted the refugees just as fiercely as the swarm. They believed the sealed structure should never be opened, and they were closing in fast. Earth wasn't facing one enemy. It was facing two, and both were arriving at the same time. Outside, the first swarm fragments drifted low across the sky, scanning the ground with thin beams of shifting light. They didn't attack yet. They seemed to be searching for something, or someone. When those beams swept across the ship, the sealed structure pulsed again, brighter and louder than before, as if answering the signals from above. Then the crack widened. A thin line of light cut through the air, and the structure shifted, almost like it was taking a breath. The readings spiked beyond anything the instruments could track. The specialist felt the air tighten around him, like gravity itself had changed. He stumbled forward, catching himself against the railing. The alien leader reached out, steadying him, and whispered, "It recognizes you. It's choosing." Before he could respond, a thunderous roar ripped across the sky. The second faction's ships blinked into view high above the clouds, sleek, blade-like silhouettes descending fast. Earth's defenses panicked, locking onto the newcomers. The swarm fragments paused mid-air, reacting to the sudden change. 3 forces, each with different intentions, were now converging on the same point, the sealed structure, and the human it had chosen. The ground shuddered violently as all 3 sides moved at once, racing toward the landing site. The specialist felt the structure heat beneath the crack, glowing brighter, almost alive. Then, in one blinding flash, it opened. The sealed structure opened with a soundless burst of light, expanding outward like a wave that washed through the landing site and up into the sky. For a moment, everything stopped. The swarm fragments froze mid-air, their shifting surfaces flickering. The pursuing ships from the alien faction paused as well, caught in the glow. Even the air felt suspended, as though time itself had been startled. At the center of the opening stood something that wasn't a weapon or a machine. It looked almost human, tall, radiant, formed of light and matter intertwined. The specialist felt an immediate pull, not of fear but recognition, as if a memory buried deep inside him had just been dragged to the surface. The alien leader bowed their head, whispering, "The Origin Guardian, last remnant of what our kind once were." The Guardian stepped forward, and the ground beneath it shifted slightly, like gravity was adjusting to its presence. When it raised its hand, the swarm fragments shuddered as though a command had reached them. The dark shapes folded inward, collapsing into smaller forms before drifting slowly toward the ground and settling like harmless metal dust. All across the sky, the fragments dimmed and shut down. The threat that had chased the alien fleet for lifetimes was suddenly still. The specialist stared in disbelief. "It can control them," the alien leader answered softly. "It can unmake their command. The swarm was built long ago, by a faction of our own ancestors. They twisted creation into destruction. The Guardian was made to stop them, but only humans, our distant king, could activate it." Before he could fully grasp the meaning, alarms screamed again. The pursuing ships, the hostile faction, broke free from the shock and dove toward the landing site. They fired disabling pulses that shook the ground, trying to overwhelm the Guardian before it could stabilize. Soldiers ducked behind cover as dust and light filled the air. The Guardian turned toward the incoming ships, its glow intensifying. A ripple of energy streamed from its core, spreading upward like a curtain of light. The ship's engines flickered and shut down, leaving them drifting helplessly before easing safely to the ground. No explosions, no destruction, just a complete stop. Everything went quiet. The specialist felt the tension inside him ease for the first time since the crisis began. Earth was safe, the swarm was neutralized. The hostile faction had been disarmed without harm. It felt like the ending everyone needed, but the Guardian turned to him again. Its voice, though not spoken aloud, coded inside his thoughts. "You awakened me, therefore you must choose." Before he could respond, an image flashed in his mind, a map of the galaxy marked with thousands of dormant structures just like this one, scattered across distant worlds. The Guardian wasn't alone. It was part of something much larger, something waiting for humanity's return, not just the aliens. The final twist struck him like a cold wind. The aliens hadn't simply descended from the stars. Humanity had originally come from those distant worlds long before history began, scattered across the galaxy in ages forgotten. Earth wasn't the starting point, it was the refuge. And now the Guardian was asking whether humanity was ready to reclaim the rest of what had been lost before something else found it first. Nearby, the defeated faction's ships were being secured by Earth teams. The aliens from that group stepped out peacefully, their resistance gone. Without their weapons or control systems, they looked less like enemies and more like people who had followed a belief too far. They seemed confused, even relieved, as if the Guardian's presence had lifted something heavy from them too. As medics and diplomats moved in, the specialist walked toward the Guardian. Its form was dimming, becoming softer, less defined. It had poured most of its energy into stopping the threats above. Now it stood still, calm, almost gentle. He asked the question that had been building inside him since the vision ended. What happens now? The Guardian's reply came as a warm pulse inside his mind. You return to your world. You rebuild trust with those who fled it long ago. And you decide, in time, whether humanity will remain on this one world, or reclaim the legacy scattered across the stars. He hesitated. And you, I will rest, it answered, until you call again, or until another world needs what only you can awaken. With that final message, its light folded inward, shrinking until it became a small sphere resting in the specialist's hands. The energy that once lit the sky now felt like a steady heartbeat, quiet, patient, alive. He stepped out of the ship holding the sphere as reporters, officials, and citizens watched from a safe distance. No one spoke at first. They didn't need to. The truth was written across the landing site, the disabled swarm fragments, the silent enemy ships, the mix of human and alien faces trying to understand the new world that had just opened before them. In the days that followed, Earth entered a period of unexpected calm. Instead of fear, there was cooperation. The alien refugees helped repair damaged systems, shared knowledge, and began rebuilding trust with their divided kin. Negotiations started, carefully but sincerely, about how both species could share the future. Scientists examined the Guardian sphere, though only the specialists could activate it. Some called him a bridge between two civilizations. Others simply saw him as a reminder that humanity had always been more connected to the stars than anyone realized. And when he finally returned home, he looked up at the night sky with a feeling he had never known before. Not fear, not uncertainty, but possibility. The universe wasn't just something distant anymore. It was a place filled with pieces of a forgotten past waiting to be found again. Earth had survived. The swarm was quiet. The old conflict was ended. Yet the real journey, the one scattered across countless worlds, had only just been rediscovered. And humanity, at last, knew it was not rising into the future alone.